What's up guys, it's Eric from Rare Candy and welcome back to another Burning Shadows deck profile for you. And this time we're going to be taking a look at the new Alolan Muk GX from Burning Shadows. Definitely kind of an interesting card. We definitely wanted to cover here on the channel. And if you have not seen, we recently uploaded a video showing off this deck in action. So if you want to see how this deck works, I'll be sure to put a link to that on the video or in the description as well. And if you guys are not familiar with the testing rounds videos that we featured this deck in, they are usually, the lists in the videos are usually kind of like unrefined, rough starting points for us to start testing with. So something just to keep in mind as we're looking at this early deck profile. So since this is an Alolan Muk deck, we are playing 4 Alolan Grimer. And it is worth noting we are playing the new one from Burning Shadows because it has a 0 energy attack. It lets you search your deck for a Grimer and put it onto your bench. So it's just a nice little consistency booster if we start with it. So that's why we are playing the new one. But of course we're playing 3 Alolan Muk GX, the main attacker of the deck. So Alolan Muk GX, the first attack it has is a Dark Energy and a double Colorless. It does 10 plus 70 more for every special condition on your opponent's active Pokemon. So we are very reliant on special conditions in this deck to do damage, and we'll get to that in a second and show you how we are going to try to accomplish that. But its next attack is going to be, I'm not sure the name of it, these are just the Japanese scans. But 2 Dark Energy and a double Colorless does 120, and you discard an energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. So that means you can even get rid of basic energies as well, not just specials. Kind of an okay attack. We usually don't want to commit that much energy to one Alolan Muk, but it can sometimes be a decent attack. And then its GX move, which is I think what's kind of caused the most noise about this card, I guess you could say, is it's our first 0 energy GX attack. And so whenever you use it, you get to pick one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, make it their active, and the new active Pokemon is now burned, poisoned, and paralyzed. So you get 3 status conditions on them, and of course that has obvious synergy with Muk's first attack. So yeah, burn, paralyzed, and poison, definitely nice. If they don't play something like an Acerola or a Guzma or evolve out of it, they will be stuck in the active spot thanks to that paralysis. But most of the time, we are just going to have probably around 2 special conditions on our opponent's active Pokemon, which means Alolan Muk will be able to hit for 150. And let's get more into the damage in just a second. But that's like the main way. Like I said, we're going to try to do most of our damage. But next up, we are playing 1 Alolan Muk. This is going to be the one from Sun and Moon. We are playing it for its ability. Let's see what it is. Power of Alchemy. I never even knew the name of that thing. But as long as this Pokemon is in play, each basic Pokemon has no abilities. So we're already running an Alolan Muk line. I feel like you may as well run one of these as well, just to potentially disrupt your opponent a little bit. Especially if you get this out, it will limit their options in terms of being able to like use Tapu Lele to grab the supporter they need to get out of the status condition. So I figured it fits nicely as kind of just a little one-off. But the main way we're going to be inflicting these special conditions is going to be with a 3/3 Salazzle line. So we're playing Salazzle for its Hot Poison ability. Whenever you evolve into Salazzle from your hand, you get to make your opponent's active burned and poisoned. So this is actually really nice because if you have 2 special conditions, Muk does 150. With the damage from poison and burn, that's going to bump up the damage to essentially 180. And if you have a choice band on Muk, that's going to bump you up to 210. So it's very important to have specifically these 2 status conditions to do the damage with Muk's attack. So seems decent just for essentially 2 energy attachments. With the choice band, you're doing 210. Not that bad. It does require a couple of combo pieces to pull off, but it is rewarding when it does happen. Next up, we are playing one of the promo Tapu Koko. We're playing it for its Flying Flip attack. So it does 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. And this is actually pretty important because Muk is going to struggle to take one-hit knockouts on certain Pokemon in the game. The most notable new one is going to be Gardevoir GX. So Gardevoir is not only resistant to Dark, but also it has 230 hit points, which is very awkward for Muk to knock out. And basically just any Pokemon over 210 hit points is going to be a challenge. So we're going to need Tapu Koko either at some point in the early game or late game to get this 20 damage on the field. That way, you know, Muk can finish knocking them out in one hit. So he just helps hit the numbers that we need to. And it also has free retreat, which is very nice because we do play things like Guzma in this list. So it gives us a nice free retreat target to promote whenever we use that card as well. And then the last of our Pokemon is going to be 2 Tapu Lele GX, just for its Wonder Tag ability. Lets us search our deck for a supporter. But also, Muk is kind of an awkward Pokemon to power up sometimes. It does have some hefty attack costs. So Tapu Lele can also be a solid backup attacker with its Energy Drive attack. 20 damage times the number of energy on both active Pokemon, just for 1 attachment, whereas Muk needs at least 2 to attack. So solid backup attacker in the deck too. Next up, going on to the trainer cards, we have 4 Professor Sycamore and 3 N. These are going to be our, staple main ways of drawing cards in the deck. You guys are probably familiar with these by now. We have 1 Brigette, so we get to search our deck for 3 non-EX basics, put them onto our bench. So this is really good on the first turn of the game. We can grab a Brigette with a Tapu Lele, and then maybe get ourselves a couple Grimer and a Salandit, or whatever combination of basic Pokemon that you need to start getting set up. Next, we're playing 1 Wally. So you search your deck for a Pokemon that evolves from one of your Pokemon, excluding EXs, and then you just can evolve immediately. So this is good because we can immediately go into something like an Alolan Muk. And honestly, Wally is kind of a card that is on the list of cards I would potentially cut. But sometimes if you open with a Grimer or 2 and you have Wally or access to Wally with Tapu Lele, if you can Wally into an Alolan Muk on the first turn, that can actually be very, very powerful since it will prevent your opponent from using something like Tapu Lele on their own first turn to get set up with. But you can always evolve into your Alolan Muk GX as well if you choose to. But it's mainly going to be to get out Alolan Muk on first turn if we have the option to. But out of the games I've played so far, Wally has yet to even come into play, so you guys might even want to consider cutting this. But like I said, this is an early list, so things are constantly being changed as you guys are watching this video. So next up we have 1 Lysandre and 1 Guzma. So you guys are probably familiar with Lysandre. You get to switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one they're benched. And Guzma is a new supporter from Burning Shadows. It does the same thing, but you also get to switch. So this is good in a number of situations if you get confused or affected by a special condition, or you have some sort of weird effects placed on you. Guzma's good because it lets you get out of that situation. Or if you've noticed everything in this deck has a kind of obnoxious retreat cost. So Alolan Muk 4 retreat, Alolan Muk GX 4 retreat, even Alolan Grimer 3 retreat. So things are prone to getting stuck in the active spot when they don't want to be with this deck. So that's why we are playing the split. And actually, I've even considered going up to a 2 Guzma count just to ensure we always have that mobility. So I might even consider cutting Lysandre soon just for the extra Guzma. Next up, we have 1 Acerola. So as I was just saying, a lot of our Pokemon have annoying retreat costs. This is another card that's going to help with that. So you get to pick up one of your damaged Pokemon and all cards attached to it and put it into your hand. So this is good because, like I said, if something gets stuck in the active spot, we can potentially pick it up with an Acerola. Also, we can heal off our Muks if we want to, or if Salazzles take some damage in the early game, we can pick them up at some point to be able to reuse them. So it just seemed like it had some synergy with our Alolan Muk. Next up, we have 1 Hex Maniac. So just to show off abilities until the end of your opponent's next turn. So pretty solid in a number of situations, especially against something like Greninja, which is a terrible, terrible matchup for this deck. That might be able to help you at some point in that matchup, but Hex in general is just useful. It shuts off Vileplume, shuts off Decidueye, etc., etc. Okay, so next up we have 4 Reverse Secret, just to reuse all the supporters we just mentioned. 4 Ultra Ball, just to search out any Pokemon that we want from our deck. Let's see, we have 3 Float Stone. So if you guys had not noticed, everything in this deck has, not everything, but a lot of Pokemon in this deck have a massive retreat cost. So we're going to need Float Stone to move everything around a little bit more easily. Next up, 3 Choice Band, another tool card. This one, like I said, with Alolan Muk, really helps you hit for the numbers that you need to take 2-hit knockouts, or I'm sorry, 1-hit knockouts on a lot of things. Since with the Choice Band and the status conditions, you're effectively doing 210. Next up, we're playing 2 Field Blower. So choose up to 2 tool cards or stadiums and play and discard them. So this is cool because Garbodor is really bad for us. The Garbotoxin Garbodor, I should say, the one that shuts off abilities. So we need a way to remove the tool from Garbodor in order to make sure that we can properly do damage with Muk, because this deck is so reliant on abilities with this hot poison. If we don't have access to it, it can be very bad for us. So that's why we are playing the additional field blower, since a lot of decks sometimes just play the one. And next up we have 1 Rescue Stretcher. Get 1 Pokemon from our discard pile, put it into our hand, or shuffle 3 from discard back into our deck. So just a nice little recovery card for the deck. And last of all, we're going to be playing 2 Parallel City, so just for a little bit of added disruption. So it's one of these cool dual effect cards. Depending on which way you face the Parallel City will determine what the effects are. So whoever has the blue side facing them, they can only have 3 bench Pokemon in play, and the player that has the red side facing them, their grass, fire, and water Pokemon do 20 less damage. So we are mainly playing it to make use of the blue side to limit our opponent's bench, potentially. Since we're already being very disruptive, we want to limit their bench and also, you know, disrupt them that way. And it really prevents them sometimes from being able to Lele into an Acerola or a Guzma or some way to get out of these special conditions. So it's very good at limiting that type of play. But like I said, just in general, it's a very disruptive stadium. So, and Muk's a very disruptive Pokemon, so it just seemed like it had some synergy. Another potential option that I think is worth mentioning is actually Potown, a new supporter from Burning Shadows, the one that places damage counters on Pokemon when they evolve. That could also be good just because it will allow us to reuse Salazzle more easily with Acerola. Also makes the math a little bit better for certain Pokemon like Gardevoir I just mentioned, and other like Stage 2 GXs. So that's a consideration as well, but I decided to try out Parallel City to start with just to see how it did. So that's going to be it for our trainer cards, and next up we have 4 double Colorless energy, since all of our attackers do require double Colorless energy. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dark energy, just because of course Alolan Muk needs dark energy to attack. So yeah guys, that's going to be our first attempt at an Alolan Muk GX deck. I have to say, in my testing so far, it seems like an okay concept, but this is really going to struggle, I think, against a number of decks in the current format. I think maybe post-rotation this might have more of a chance, just because Greninja's going to lose a lot of tools at its disposal, which is a terrible matchup for this deck. Vespiquen will be going away, which is another terrible matchup. Basically, just one-prize attackers in general are really bad for this Alolan Muk deck. Gardevoir is also resistant to you, so I'm not sure what Muk's place is going to be in the metagame initially, but I think it's a cool card, and it's definitely an interesting deck to try out. But yeah guys, that's going to be, like I said, pretty much it for this one. As usual with these early deck profiles, let us know below in the comments what you guys think about this. Are there any cards that you like or any that you would change? Definitely feel free to let us know. But yeah guys, as usual, feel free to like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out our merchandise over at rarecandytcg.com. If you can pick up something to help support our channel, it'd mean a lot to us. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you for the next one.